"You shouldn't have come," she said, smiling. Before anyone could react, the lanterns flickered and went off, leaving the forest in total darkness, and the screams began. The village of Ezinato was silent at night, not the good kind of silence, like when everyone is asleep. It was kind of silence that made your heart beat faster. The kind that made you afraid to breathe too aloud. Amadi, the old palm wine tapper, sat in his hut with his family. His wife held their youngest child close while the others huddled around him. Amadi gripped his machete tightly, but his hands were shaking. "Papa," his oldest son whispered, "is she coming tonight?" "Be quiet," Amadi hissed. He didn't want to scare the boy, but the truth was, he didn't know. Outside, the moon was bright, casting long shadows on the empty street. The wind made the trees swell, their leaves rustling softly, but no one dared to look out. They had learned not to. The fear in Ezinato started when Princess Adana returned from the forest. She was once the jewel of the kingdom, kind and full of life. But when she came back, something had changed. Her smile was sharp, her eyes cold. She didn't speak to the villagers anymore, only stared at them with a look that made their skin crawl. Then, people began to disappear. A young boy went missing while playing with fireflies. A trader vanished on his way home, leaving the cat behind in the middle of the road. The villagers whispered, "It's the princess. She has become evil." Some said she had met a spirit in the forest and traded her kindness for power. Others said she had been cursed. That night, as Amadi and his family sat in the dark, a noise broke the silence. It was soft at first, a slow dragging sound. Drag, drag, drag. Amadi froze. His wife clenched his arm, her nails digging into his skin. "Don't move," she whispered. The dragging sound got closer. Drag, drag, drag. It stopped right outside their door. Then came the voice. "Open the door." It was soft, almost sweet, but it made the air in the room feel cold. Amadi's youngest child whimpered, and his wife quickly covered the child's mouth. "Go away," Amadi shouted, his voice shaking. He tightened his grip on the machete, though deep down, he knew it was useless. The voice laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was hollow and cold, like it didn't belong to a person. "You can't hide from me," the voice said. Then the dragging sound started again, moving away into the night. When the sun rose, Amadi finally opened the door. He stepped outside carefully, his heart pounding. In front of the hut, scratched into the dirt, were words that made his blood run cold. "I will come back." Amadi stared at the message, his hands trembling. He turned to his family. "We must be ready," he said softly. But deep down, he knew there was no way to prepare for what was coming. The next morning, the village of Ezinato was buzzing with whispers. Everyone had heard about the wares scratched into the dirt outside Amadi's hut. I will come back. Old women shook their heads. It is her, they said. Princess Adana walks at night again. In the market square, people spoke in hushed voices. No one wanted to say her name too loudly, as if she might hear them. The fear was spreading. That same evening, the village head, UCHE Okeke, called a meeting under the big Iroko tree. The men sat in circle. Their faces serious. We must do something, UCHE Okeke said. Adana had taken enough from us. Last month, it was Oluchi's husband. Before that, it was my own nephew. But what can we do? One man asked. She is not just a princess anymore. She is something else. The men nodded, their heads low. Everyone in Ezinato had heard the stories of what happened to those who tried to face her. Some were never found, others were returned, lifeless and cold. Their faces froze in fear. As they talked, a young boy named Kelechi ran up to the circle, his face pale. Is my brother, Emeka? He shouted. He's gone. The men jumped to their feet. What happened? UCHE Okeke asked. Kelechi was trembling. He went to fetch water from the stream, the boy said, but he didn't come back. I found his bucket on the ground. I called his name, but no one answered. The men exchanged worried glances. The stream was close to the forest. The place no one dared to go anymore. We must search for him, Nnaji said. Nnaji is a vibrant young man who always cared for his people. He stood up. He didn't want to go, but he couldn't sit back and do nothing. Are you mad? Another man asked. What if she is there? You will only bring trouble to the rest of us. Nnaji clenched his feet. And what if is your son? He snapped. We can't let fear control us. After some argument, 4 men agreed to go with Nnaji. They carried machetes and lanterns, though none of them truly believed this would help. The rest of the villagers stayed behind, praying for their safe return. The search party moved quickly, following the path to the stream. The forest was quiet, too quiet. Even the birds seemed afraid to sing. The men kept their eyes on the shadows, jumping at every rustle of leaves. When they reached the stream, they found Emeka's bucket lying on its side. There was no footprint, no sign of a struggle, just silence. He can't be far, Nnaji said, trying to sound brave. But as they stepped deeper into the forest, something felt wrong. The air grew colder, and the trees seemed taller, their branches twisting like claws. Then they heard it. Soft footsteps behind them. The men froze. Who is there? Nnaji called out, his voice trembling. A faint laugh echoed through the trees, followed by a familiar sweet voice. Looking for someone? The men turned, their lanterns shaking in their hands. Standing in the shadows was Princess Adana, her red eyes glowing like embers. You shouldn't have come, she said, smiling. Before anyone could react, the lanterns flickered and went off, leaving the forest in total darkness, and the screams began. By morning, only Nnaji returned from the forest. His face was pale, his clothes shredded, and his body trembling like a leaf in the wind. He collapsed at the edge of the village, his lips moving without sound. The villagers crowded around him, their whispers filling the air. What happened? Where are the others? Nnaji tried to speak, but only broken words came out. She's not human anymore. Her eyes red. He fell silent, clutching his machete tightly, as if it was the only thing keeping him alive. Ichie Okeke, the village head, bent over him. Take him to my hut, he ordered. He needs to tell us everything. That evening, after Nnaji had been given food and water, he finally spoke. His voice was hoarse, his eyes filled with fear. She was waiting for us, he whispered. Princess Adana. Her eyes burned like fire. She laughed at us, laughed, and then the darkness came. The forest swallowed us. I heard the screams, but I couldn't see. I ran and ran until my legs gave way. Ichie Okeke's heart sank. Adana had once been the pride of their kingdom. How had it come to this? The elders gathered late into the night to discuss what they had learned. No one could deny it now. Princess Adana was not human anymore. But why? She changed after she returned from the forest. An elder said, it must have started there. Then, we need to know what happened to her. Ichie Okeke said, and I know who might have the answers. The room fell silent. Everyone knew who he meant. Mami Ifeoma, one elder muttered. Mami Ifeoma, the old priestess, had lived near the sacred tree for as long as anyone could remember. She was said to speak with spirits and see things no one else could, but no one dared to visit her. Her hut was deep in the forest, where strange things happened. She is our only hope, Ichie Okeke said firmly. I will go to her. The next morning, Ichie Okeke and Nnaji set out for the sacred tree. The forest grew darker as they walked. The air, heavy with the smell of damp earth. The birds were silent, and the only sound were the crunch of leaves under their feet. Finally, they reached the sacred tree. Its massive roots twisted like snakes, and its branches reached high into the sky, blocking out the sunlight. At its base sat Mami Ifeoma. Her back was bent, her hair as ash, but her eyes were sharp, watching them as if she had been expecting them. I know why you are here, she said, her voice low. It's about Adana. Ichie Okeke nodded. Tell us what happened to her. Why has she become like this? Mami Ifeoma sighed, her gaze drifting to the tree. Years ago, Adana wandered into the forest. She was chasing something. Some said it was glowing bird. Others said it was the wind itself. She found herself here at the sacred tree and heard the spirit calling her. The spirit promised her power. Mami Ifeoma continued. They told her she could rule over all, that no one could define her, but there was a price. She had to give something in return: her kindness, her humility. Nnaji's hand clenched. She made the deal. She was desperate to be the strongest, to be feared, Mami Ifeoma said, and so she gave herself to the spirit. They live within her now, feeding on the fear of the villagers. That is why she comes at night. Why people disappear. It makes her stronger. Ichie Okeke's voice trembled. Is there a way to stop her? Mami Ifeoma nodded slowly. Her power comes from the sacred tree. Beneath its roots lies the heart of her strength. You must destroy it, but beware. The spirit will not let it go easily. They will protect it and they will try to destroy you. The forest seems to grow colder as her words hung in the air. The wind whistled through the branches, and the shadows of the tree seemed to twist and shift, as though the forest itself was alive. Ichie Okeke and Nnaji exchanged a look. They knew what had to be done, but as they turned to leave, Mami Ifeoma called out. Be careful, she said. The spirits are watching, and Adana, she knows you are coming. The men felt a chill crawl up their spines as they walked back towards the village. They had learned the truth, but with it came a terrifying question. Could they truly face the princess and the spirits that controlled her? King Ozulu and Queen Nneka sat in their royal chambers, the weight of their worries pressing heavily on them. The walls that once echoed with laughter now felt cold silent. Their daughter, Princess Adana, had changed. She was no longer the sweet, kind girl they had raised. Adana had always been a beautiful princess. Her smile could light up the darkest corner of the kingdom. She was gentle and caring, always helping the villagers, always ready to listen to their troubles. But all of that had begun to fade. Now, the king and queen were scared of their own daughter. They had heard the whispers. The villagers were terrified, and some even dared to say they would kill her if they could. They spoke in hushed voices when she was not around, afraid of what she had become. Queen Nneka couldn't hold back her tears. Ozulu, she said, her voice breaking, what have we done? Look at her now. She had turned into something dark, something we can't control. She used to be our pride. Now, I don't know what to think anymore. King Ozulu looked at the window, his face filled with guilt. It's my fault, Nneka, he said quietly. I wanted so much. I wanted a strong heir to take my place, but Adana, she is all I have. She heard me talking about her. That's what made her seek for help, to be powerful. I pushed her too hard. The queen shook her head. You didn't push her, Ozulu. She wanted to please you. She wanted to be everything you wanted her to be. But now, her voice trailed off and she glanced nervously towards the door, as if Adana might appear at any moment. The king let out a long sigh, sinking into his chair. I asked too much of her. I should have seen it. She is just a girl. I thought her beauty and kindness would be enough, but I wanted power. I wanted a son, a strong boy who could take my place. His eyes grew distant. Adana became desperate. She wanted to make me proud, so she went to the forest. She made a deal with the spirits. She thought she could give me everything, King Ozulu whispered, but she lost herself in the process. Now, she is no longer the daughter we knew. For a long time, the room was silent. Neither of them knew what to do anymore. They were afraid of what would happen if the villagers find out the truth about their daughter. The kingdom had always respected the royal family, but now they whispered behind their backs. They were scared of Princess Adana. They didn't know what she had become, and they don't know how to stop it. The king closed his eyes in despair. If the villagers knew, if they truly understood what she has become, they would kill her without hesitation. They fear her now. I failed her. I failed myself. And now, his voice broke. Now she might destroy us all. Queen Nneka felt a cold chill in her bones. She could no longer ignore the truth. Her daughter was dangerous, but the love she had for Adana was still there, buried deep. She wanted to save her, but how? What are we going to do, Ozulu? The queen asked, her voice filled with fear. What can we do? We must stop her before it's too late. The king replied quietly, but I don't know how. As they sat there, the weight of the kingdom's fate on their shoulders, they heard the faint sound of footsteps outside their chambers. They both looked towards the door, their hearts racing. Was it Adana? Would she come to them next? Would she come to finish what she had started? Or was she still the same daughter they had loved, lost somewhere deep inside the darkness she had created? They didn't know, but one thing was clear: they were running out of time. Nnaji could not stop shaking after visiting Mami Ifeoma, the old priestess. Her words kept repeating in his mind like an echo. The spirits are strong, and Adana's power comes from the sacred tree. Nnaji returned to the village with a heavy heart. He knew something had to be done, but the task felt too big. He had seen the terrible things Adana could do with her power, and he knew the village would not be safe until she was stopped. The next morning, Nnaji went straight to King Ozulu's palace. He had to speak to the king. It was the only way to save everyone. When he reached the palace, he was nervous, but he knew there was no time to waste. The king and queen were sitting together, looking tired and worried. They didn't look up when Nnaji entered, but they waved him in. "I have seen Mami Ifeoma, Your Majesty," Nnaji said, bowing his head. "She told me what we must do to stop the princess." King Ozulu and Queen Nneka looked at each other. They were both listening closely. "What did she say?" the king asked, his voice quiet. "We must destroy the sacred tree," Nnaji said, his voice low. "That is where Princess Adana gets her power. If we destroy it, the spirit will leave her, and she will be just a girl again." The king's eyes grew wide. "Destroy the sacred tree? But that tree is the heart of our land. Without it, the forest will be ordinary, and the village might be cursed. Queen Nneka's face was pale. But if we do nothing, our people will die. I want to protect my daughter too, but I don't want my people to die. Nnaji took a deep breath. I know it's hard, but it's the only way. If we wait, the spirit will grow stronger and Adana will become more dangerous. The villagers are scared. They will soon rise against her. And if that happens, she will kill them all. The king closed his eyes, thinking he had always loved his daughter. The thought of destroying the sacred tree made his heart ache. But he also knew that he could not let the people suffer. I will speak to the elders, King Ozulu said finally. We will make a plan, but we must do it carefully. If we fail, everything will be lost. Later that evening, the king gathered the elders and the strongest warriors of the village. They sat in circle around a fire, the flames casting long shadows on their faces. Nnaji was there too, his heart pounding in his chest. I have heard what Nnaji said is true. The king began. We must stop Princess Adana. The spirits she has a deal with are growing stronger, and soon she will destroy us all. But we cannot act without a plan. We must be careful, or we will lose everything. The elders nodded. Their face is serious, but what can we do? We cannot fight the spirits. We don't have the strength, one elder said. Mami Farmer's words echoed in Nnaji's mind. We must find the heart of the tree, the roots that hold the power. If we destroy that, the spirit will leave her. The warriors looked at each other. They knew the forest was full of dangers, but they were ready to fight if it meant saving their people. We will go into the forest. We will go into the forest at night, one warrior said. We will find the heart of the tree and destroy it. The king nodded. We will wait until the moon is high. Then we will move quickly. We must be silent and careful. If Adana finds us, it will be the end. Nnaji felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The plan was risky, but it was their only chance. The villagers spent the next few days preparing. The warriors sharpened their weapons, and the elders gathered all the information they could. They were ready to face the princess, but none of them knew what would happen when they stepped into the forest to fight the spirits that protected her. As the moon grew full, the night of their plan arrived. The village was quiet, the air thick with tension. Nnaji's heart raced. He didn't know what to expect, but he knew one thing for sure. If they failed, there would be no more village, no more people. They moved silently through the village, their feet barely making a sound on the soft ground. The forest was waiting for them. The moon was big and bright, but the forest was dark. Nnaji and the 10 warriors walked quietly, their feet making no sound on the soft ground. The air was heavy, and every step felt like they were walking deeper into something they couldn't understand. It was very still, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Nnaji looked at the faces of the warriors. They were all strong, but their eyes were full of fear. They had heard the stories about Princess Adana and the spirits in the forest. Everyone in the village was afraid of her now. If they didn't stop her, the village would be in great danger. Stay quiet, the leader of the warriors whispered. Don't make a sound. The princess is close. Nnaji nodded, his heart beating faster. He had never felt so scared in his life. The princess used to be kind, but now she was something else, something dark. The warriors all held charms given to them by the priestess. The charms were meant to protect them from the spirits of the forest. The priestess had warned them that only these charms could keep them safe. After walking for a long time, the trees started to look different. They were taller and twisted, like they were reaching for the sky with sharp fingers. The air grew colder and the wind began to moan, as if the forest was alive and watching them. "There it is," one of the warriors said in a soft voice. He pointed to a huge tree in the middle of the forest. The tree was bigger than any tree Nnaji had ever seen. Its roots stretched deep into the ground, and its branches looked like arms, ready to grab anyone who came too close. "This is the sacred tree," the warrior said. "If we destroy the heart of this tree, we can stop the princess." Nnaji's hand shook as he looked at the tree. He felt like something was watching him. The air around him seemed thick, and the ground felt like it was moving under his feet. The warriors started digging at the roots, but suddenly a cold wind blew through the trees. It howled like an animal in pain. Nnaji's heart skipped a beat. He looked around but saw nothing. Then a voice, cold and sharp, echoed through the forest. "Why are you here?" The voice sounded like it was everywhere at once. It was the princess, but she didn't sound like the princess he once knew. She sounded evil. "You cannot stop me. The spirits of the forest are here with me." Nnaji's legs felt weak. He wanted to run, but he knew he had to keep going. "Adana," Nnaji called, trying to stay calm. "You don't have to do this. Please, stop. We just want to save the village." But the princess laughed, and her laugh sounded it was coming from all around them. "I don't care about the village anymore," she said. "I care only for my power. I have made a deal with the spirits, and now no one can stop me." Nnaji's heart pounded in his chest as the wind started to scream. The trees around them shook, their branches twisting like fingers reaching for them. The ground rumbled beneath their feet. The magic was getting stronger. "We need to hurry," Nnaji shouted. "Dig fast." The warriors walked as quickly as they could, but the air grew colder and colder. It felt like the whole forest was alive and angry. Suddenly, they hit something hard, the glowing stone, the heart of the tree. But just as they were about to grab it, the princess appeared. She was standing in front of the tree, her eyes glowing like fire. Her face was twisted with rage, and her voice was sharp like knife. "You think you can stop me?" she hissed. "I will destroy you all. The spirits are with me." The wind howled louder, and the ground cracked open. Dark shadows began to swirl around them. The spirits of the forest were coming. Nnaji could feel the cold breath in his skin. He could hear whispers in the air, voice calling his name, trying to pull him into the darkness. "You can't destroy it," Princess Adana screamed. "This is my power now." Nnaji looked at the glowing stone in his hands. It was pulsing with dark energy, like it had a life of its own. He knew that if they didn't destroy it now, they would all be lost. The princess' magic was getting stronger. With all the strength he could find, Nnaji smashed the stone into the ground. There was a flash of light so bright, it made his eyes burn. The ground shook, and the wind screamed louder than ever before. For a moment, everything went completely still. Then, the darkness disappeared. The princess was gone. The spirits were gone. The forest became quiet again. But when Nnaji looked around, he saw something that made his heart drop. Only him and one warrior were still standing. The others were gone. Their bodies swallowed by the forest. The spirits had taken them. The warrior beside Nnaji looked at him. His face pale with fear. Where are they?" he whispered. Nnaji couldn't answer. He looked at the forest, and the weight of what had just happened settled on him. They had destroyed the princess' power, but the cost had been high. The forest was calm, but the memory of what they had seen and lost would never leave them. Nnaji and the remaining warrior walked back home, their hearts heavy with the loss of their friends. They had saved the village, but the spirits would always haunt the forest, and the village would never forget the price they had paid to stop Princess Adana. The sun was rising as Nnaji and the last warrior slowly walked back to the village. Their steps were slow, and their faces were pale. They had saved the village, but they felt like they had lost something much more important. The spirits had taken the others. The warriors who had come with them were gone. As they reached the village, the people gathered around. They looked at Nnaji and the warrior with wide eyes. They could see it in their faces. Something had changed. "What happened?" asked the village elder, his voice trembling. Nnaji took a deep breath. He couldn't say the words right away. His heart was heavy with grief. He looked down at the ground, then looked at the elder. "We destroyed the princess' magic," Nnaji said quietly. "But the spirit took our friends. Only I and this warrior returned." The villagers gasped. They knew what the spirits were capable of. They had heard stories about the forest and the power of the princess, but no one had ever seen the spirit take people before. The elder shook his head sadly. "It was a great sacrifice," he said, "but the village is safe now." Nnaji didn't feel safe. He felt like the forest was still watching them, like the spirits had not completely gone. The trees in the distance seemed to move, even though there was no wind. He shivered, but he didn't say anything. The village was safe for now, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way forever. That night, Nnaji went to the priestess. He had to know more about what had really happened. He had to understand why the spirit had been so angry, why the princess had become so wicked. The priestess welcomed him into her hut. She looked at Nnaji with a knowing gaze, as if she already knew why he came. "Sit, Nnaji," the priestess said. "I know why you are here. You want answers." Nnaji nodded. "Yes, priestess. I don't understand. Why did the princess turn so evil? Why did the spirits do this?" The priestess sighed. princess was once good, kind even, but her father, the king, wanted a son badly. He asked the gods for a son, and the gods gave him a daughter. Nnaji listened carefully as the priestess spoke. The king's wish brought a dark magic to the village. Princess Adana was not born to be evil, but the power she was given by the spirit twisted her. She became greedy for power, and she started to use the spirit to get what she wanted. The spirit gave her the strength, but in return, they took her heart. But once she tested the power, she couldn't stop. She used it to control the forest, to control the people. She believed that only through power could she make her father proud. She did it all for him, hoping he would see her one day. Nnaji frowned. But why didn't she stop when she saw what it was doing? The priestess looked at him with sad eyes. Because power is like sickness. Once it gets inside you, it is hard to let go. The princess thought she could control it, but the spirit had already taken hold of her. By the time she realized what she had become, it was too late. Nnaji thought about the princess. The kind girl he had once known was now a dark memory, lost to the spirit and her own greed. Can she be alive somewhere? He thought to himself. You did well, the priestess said, her voice soft. You stopped her, but the cost was high. Remember this, Nnaji. Power can destroy even the best of all. Nnaji nodded slowly. He understood now. The princess' story wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who sought power without thinking of the cost. And it was about the villagers who had to live with that cost. As Nnaji left the priestess' hut, he looked up at the stars. The village was quiet, but the weight of the forest secret hung heavy on his heart, and it would never be forgotten. The spirits were still out there, waiting for the next person to make a wish for power. And Nnaji knew if the village wasn't careful, it could happen again. The king and queen couldn't stop crying. Their hearts were broken, and they could not understand what had happened to their daughter. She had been so kind, so beautiful, but now she was gone, taken by the spirit. They couldn't believe it. Could she be alive somewhere? Could she still be out there, waiting for them to find her? Days passed, and the villagers whispered about Princess' strange disappearance. Some said she was still under the control of the spirit, while others believed she had become a ghost. But there was no sign of her. The king and queen became more desperate. They spent their nights praying, hoping for a miracle. Then, one morning, something happened that no one expected. A group of villagers had gone to the river to fetch water, as they did every day. But this time, as they walked along the path, they noticed something strange. Lying near the edge of the forest was a figure. The villagers couldn't tell who it was at first. The figure was motionless, with no sign of life. They got closer, and their hearts skipped a beat when they recognized the face. It was Princess Adana. The villagers were terrified. They had heard the stories of the princess' dark magic and how the spirit had taken her. They were sure that what they were looking at was not the princess, but some evil spirit pretending to be her. They could feel the chill in the air, and their fear grew. One of the villagers screamed, "She's back!" But she's not the same. They quickly dropped their buckets and ran back to the village, shouting for everyone to flee. "The princess is here, but she's not alive," they cried. "She's possessed by the spirit. Run! Run for your lives!" The villagers rushed to the village square, throwing whatever they could find: stones, sticks, and old clothes, as if they were trying to protect themselves from something dangerous. They were so scared that they didn't even think about what they were doing. All they knew was that the princess had returned, and they were not going to take any chances. The news of princess' return reached the king and queen soon after. When they heard what had happened, he was shocked. He couldn't believe it. Was it really her? Had she truly come back? Or was it some trick of the spirit? He called for his best warriors to gather. "We must go and see if it is true." The king said, "We cannot let the villagers run in fear. We need to know if our daughter is really back." Nnaji, who had been helping the village with the dark magic of the princess, stepped forward. "I will go with them, Your Majesty," he said. "I know what the spirit can do. I will make sure it's safe to bring her back." The king nodded, his eyes filled with both hope and fear. "Go with my warriors, Nnaji. Find out what is happening and bring her back." Nnaji and the warriors set out towards the river, their hearts heavy with uncertainty. The path was quiet and the air thick with tension. When they reached the spot where the villagers had seen Princess Adana, they stopped. There she was, lying on the ground, just as the villagers had described. Nnaji slowly approached the princess, his eyes wide. He couldn't believe his eyes. The princess' face was pale, and her clothes were torn. She looked like she had been through a great battle, but there was no sign of life in her eyes. Was this really their daughter? Or was it something else? Nnaji knelt down beside her. "Princess Adana," he called gently, but there was no response. One of the warriors whispered, "What if she's still under the spirit's control? What if this is a trap?" But Nnaji couldn't leave her there. He had to know the truth. He carefully lifted the princess, his hands trembling. As he did, he noticed something strange. Her body was cold, colder than it should have been. It felt like she had been lying there for much longer than the villagers had said. "Is she alive?" one of the warriors asked, his voice shaky. Nnaji didn't answer. He just carried the princess back to the village, hoping that the king and queen would have the answers. When they returned to the village, the king and the queen rushed forward, their faces full of fear and hope. They stared at their daughter, still lifeless in Nnaji's arms. "Is it really her?" the queen asked, her voice trembling. Nnaji nodded. "It's her, but I'm not sure what had happened to her." The king and queen looked at each other. They were afraid of what the villagers might do if they found out that their daughter had returned. But they also knew they couldn't let her go again. The spirits had taken so much from them already, and now they had to face the truth. What had happened to Princess Adana? And was she truly back? Or was she still lost in the darkness of the spirit? The king and queen had no answers, but one thing was certain: they had to protect their daughter at all costs. The king and queen sat beside Princess Adana, waiting for her to wake up. She was still breathing, but her skin was cold as ice. The queen gently touched her daughter's hand, but there was no warmth. The silence in the room was thick with fear. "We have waited so long," the queen whispered. "Is she really gone?" The king stared at his daughter, his heart heavy. "I don't know," he murmured. "I can't pretend anymore. Maybe we have lost her." The queen's voice trembled as she spoke. "Maybe we need help. We can't do this alone." The king nodded slowly, and together they decided to go to the priestess. She was the only one who could help, who understood the dark magic that had taken hold of their daughter. They hurried to the priestess' hut, hoping she could give them answers. The elders had heard of the princess' condition, and they insisted in joining the king on this journey to the priestess. They had seen much in their time, but nothing like this. They feared that the magic could destroy the kingdom if it wasn't stopped. When they arrived, the priestess was sitting by the fire, her face calm, but her eyes full of sadness. Without a word, she began to chant softly. The king and queen stood quietly, their hearts filled with dread. The elders stood by, murmuring prayers under their breath, hoping for a miracle. After what felt like hours, the priestess stopped chanting and looked up at the king and queen. She took a deep breath, her face grim. "The magic still holds her," she said softly. "It's dark and strong, and it will not let go unless the price is paid." The king's heart sank. What price? What must we do to save our daughter? The priestess' gaze never left the princess. The king must die. The words hit like a hammer, and the king stumbled back. "What do you mean? How can I?" The priestess held up her hand, stopping him. "You pushed the princess to seek out magic. Your greedy has brought this upon you. You asked too much of her. You wanted a son, an heir, and you pushed her into the hands of dark forces. The good spirits that once protected you have left." The queen gasped, clutching the king's arm. "No, there must be another way." The priestess shook her head. "No, the spirits are gone. You must pay the price, or your daughter will remain lost." Tears filled the queen's eyes, and the king's hands shook. But how can I pay? What must I do?" "The price is your life," the priestess said. "Only then can the magic be undone. And then a man chosen by the heart of the sacred forest must come. He will be the one who can heal your daughter with his kiss. He will kiss her. She will wake and be alive again. He will build the new king, the one who will marry her." The king's mind spun with these words. How do we find him? How do we know he's the one? The priestess stood, her voice calm. "The forest will choose him. You will know then. But for now, your life is what must be given. The spirit will not forgive you until it is done." The king and queen were speechless, their hearts heavy with fear and sorrow. As they set out to leave the priestess' hut, They knew they had no choice but to face the truth. The king had to die for their daughter to be saved. The elders standing behind the king looked at each other with worry. Chief Ifeanyi, the oldest and wisest of them all, spoke first. Your Majesty, we know you have always tried to do what is best for the kingdom, but the cost of this magic is too high. The king turned to Chief Ifeanyi, his face pale. I know, Chief, but the spirits demand this. I must give my life for her to wake. The other elders nodded sadly, knowing that the king had no choice but to sacrifice himself. They had seen too many signs of the spirit's anger to question their demands. The kingdom's future now rested on the shoulder of a man chosen by the forest. Nnaji, who had been silent, stepped forward. But what if the forest does not choose anyone on time? What will happen to the village? The priestess turned her piercing gaze on Nnaji. The king must die first for it to happen, else the village will suffer. But the spirits are patient. The forest will know when the time is right. The king closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. I will die for my daughter, for my people. With heavy heart, the king, the queen, the elders, and Nnaji returned to the palace. The village was quiet, the weight of what had been said hanging in the air. Who will be the man the forest will choose? Would the king have to die for his daughter to wake? The answers were unclear, but one thing was certain. The village, the king, and the princess were all caught in a web of magic, and they would have to face whatever came next. The king sat quietly in his chambers that night. He hadn't eaten, and his heart was heavy. The priestess' words echoed in his mind. The king must pay with his life for the village to heal. He thought about his daughter, Adana, lying cold and still, her body breathing, but her soul trapped by the dark magic she had sought. He thought about his people, afraid and broken, their kingdom cursed by what he had unknowingly caused. Finally, the king stood up. He knew what he had to do. He called for his trusted guard, Amadi. Prepare my horse. I'm going to the heart of the forest, he said firmly. Amadi's eyes widened in fear. But, Your Majesty, the forest is dangerous. Let me come with you. The king shook his head. No one must follow me. This is my burden to carry. As the moon lit the night sky, the king rode along the sacred heart of the forest. The villagers watched from their huts, whispering in fear and sorrow. They knew this could be the end of their beloved king. The forest was dark and cold. Shadows danced around the trees, and the strange sounds filled the air. The king rode deeper and deeper until he reached the heart of the forest. A clearing where a giant ancient tree stood, its roots twisted into the ground like the fingers of an old spirit. The king climbed down from his horse. I have come, he said loudly, his voice steady. I will pay with my life. Save my daughter. Save my people. The wind howled through the trees, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. A soft glowing light appeared at the base of the ancient tree. The king walked towards it, his heart steady, but his body trembling. The voice of the forest spoke, deep and powerful. Do you offer your life freely, knowing you will never return? The king nodded. Yes, I offer my life. I caused this pain. I pushed my daughter too hard. I forgot that love is more important than power. Please, take my life and bring peace to my people. The light grew brighter and the air grew colder. Suddenly, the root of the tree moved, wrapping around the king's feet. He did not struggle. He stood tall, accepting his fate. The voice of the forest spoke again. Your sacrifice is accepted. Your people will be healed, and your daughter will wake. But your name will fade, and your spirit will protect the forest forever. The light consumed the king, and then it was gone. The clearing was silent again. The forest was quiet, but the air was heavy with sorrow. The king had entered the heart of the forest alone that night before, knowing he would not return. His people loved him, even with all his flaws. Now he was gone, and the weight of his sacrifice hung over the village. The following morning, the village woke to the news of their king's death. Though they knew it had to happen, it still broke their hearts, and he paid the ultimate price to save his daughter and his people. The queen wept silently in her chamber. Her husband was gone, and though she was proud of his bravery, her heart was shattered. Adana, her daughter, lay still and cold, breathing but not awake. In the village square, the elders gathered with all the able-bodied men. Nnaji stood among them, his face set with determination. The chief elder raised his hand to speak. The king gave his life, as the priestess said he must. Now, we must go to the forest to see whom it will choose. Only the chosen one's kiss can wake the princess and save our village. The men murmured in agreement. They knew the journey would be dangerous, but the forest choice would decide their future. Nnaji stepped forward. We must go now. The forest will not wait. Whoever is chosen will bring our princess back to us. The chief elder nodded. Let us go together as one people. The group set out, walking the same path the king had taken the night before. The forest loomed ahead, dark and mysterious. The villagers who stayed behind watched them go, whispering a prayer for their safety. As the men entered the forest, the air grew colder and the shadows grew deeper. The trees seemed alive, their branches twisting and creaking as if watching the group. When they reached the heart of the forest, the same clearing where the king had stood, the men stopped. The ancient tree towered over them, its roots twisting into the earth like the claws of an old spirit. The group trembled slightly, and the glowing stone at the base of the tree appeared. The forest seemed to breathe, and a deep voice echoed around them. You have come to seek the one who will save the princess. The men stood silently, waiting. One by one, they stepped forward, hoping to be chosen. But as each man approached the stone, nothing happened. Then, Nnaji stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest, but he stood tall. As he reached the stone, it began to glow brighter. The voice of the forest spoke again. You have been chosen. Your heart is pure, and your courage is strong. The men gasped in surprise. Nnaji? A simple warrior? But the forest had spoken, and its choice was final. The voice continued. Kiss the princess, and she will wake. Together, you will lead your people. The forest will guide you. Nnaji nodded, his hands trembling. He turned to the elders, who gave him solemn nods of approval. The group began their journey back to the village, carrying the hope of their people with them. As they approached the palace, the queen rushed out to meet them. She saw Nnaji holding his head high, and the others following him. Is it you? She asked, her voice shaky. Yes, Nnaji said. The forest had chosen me. The queen led him to the princess' chamber. Adana lay still, her face pale but peaceful. Nnaji knelt beside her, his heart filled with both fear and hope. Slowly, he leaned forward and kissed her forehead. For a moment, nothing happened. The room was silent, but then Adana's eyes fluttered open, and she took a deep breath. The queen gasped and covered her mouth. Adana! She cried. The princess sat up slowly, looking at Nnaji with confusion and wonder. What happened? She whispered. The villagers outside cheered as they heard the news. The princess was awake, and their village was safe. But no one could forget the king's sacrifice or the forest's strange and powerful choice. The village had a new future ahead, but it would not be easy. The journey was just beginning. Nnaji stood quietly in the princess' room, watching as she hugged her mother. His heart was full of many feelings: joy, fear, and hope. How could this be real? Nnaji was the son of the late Mazi Okafor and Ngozi. His parents died when he was still young, leaving him an orphan. But Nnaji never gave up. He worked hard every day, helping the villagers, the king, and the elders. Everyone in Ezinato loved him. People often said, Nnaji is the heartbeat of this village. He was strong and kind, always ready to help anyone in need. He was also very handsome, with kind eyes and a warm smile. When the forest chose him to save Princess Adana, Nnaji could hardly believe it. He had always admired the princess before the spirit possessed her. She was kind and beautiful, like the morning sun. But he never imagined he would one day be her husband or even the king. Now, here he was, standing in front of her as the chosen one. When Princess Adana woke up, she looked around the room. Her face was calm but confused. What happened? She asked softly. The queen hugged her tightly, tears rolling down her face. Oh, my daughter, you are back. The gods have saved you. Adana smiled weakly, but then asked, where is my father, the king? Why is he not here? The queen's smile faded, and her eyes filled with sadness. She sat beside Adana and held her hands. "My child, there is so much you don't remember," she said. Adana tilted her head. "What don't I understand, mother? Tell me." The queen sighed deeply and said, "You asked the spirit for power to make your father proud of you. But the spirit was dark and evil. It controlled you, made you hurt people. Your father, he gave his life to break the dark magic and save you." Adana's face turned pale. Tears rolled down her cheeks as her mother spoke. "My father is gone because of me?" she whispered. "Yes," the queen said, her voice shaking. "But he did it because he loved you and the people. He wanted to save us all." Adana began to cry, holding her face in her hands. Nnaji stepped forward and knelt beside her. "I witnessed all the evil things that happened to this kingdom. I never thought I would come out alive," Nnaji said gently. "Your father, the king, was very brave. He walked into the forest alone to save you and the entire kingdom." Adana looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I just wanted to make him proud. Now he is gone." Nnaji placed his hand on hers. "Your father wanted you to live. You are still here, Princess Adana. That is his gift to you. You can honor him by being the kind and good person you were before." Princess Adana sniffed and wiped her tears. She looked at Nnaji closely for the first time. "Who are you?" she asked softly. "I am Nnaji," he said with a small smile. "The gods chose me to save you and our people. I never thought this would happen, but I am here for you." Princess Adana nodded slowly, her heart heavy with sorrow, but touched by Nnaji's kindness. She hugged her mother again, whispering, "I will make things right, mother, I will." The villagers were outside, waiting patiently, praying for the princess and their new future. Nnaji knew his life would never be the same again, but he was ready to face whatever that came next. The day of Nnaji's coronation finally came. The sun was shining brightly, and the whole village of Ezinato was full of joy. For the first time in a long time, the people were happy. After all the pain and the fear they had gone through, this was a new beginning. The village square was decorated with colorful fabrics and palm leaves. Drummers played loudly and the women danced, their feet tapping to the rhythm. Children laughed and ran around, throwing flowers in the air. Nnaji stood tall and proud, dressed in a fine white robe with gold designs. A red cap sat on his head, and beads decorated his neck and wrist. He looked very handsome, like a true king. The villagers whispered as they looked at him. "He is too strong and brave," one said. "He will make a great king," another added. The elders stood in a circle around Nnaji, each holding a staff. Elder Ude, the oldest, stepped forward with the king's royal staff. He raised it high and said, "Today, we crown Nnaji as King Ezeukwu of Ezinato. May he lead us with wisdom and courage." The villagers cheered loudly. "Long live the king! Long live King Ezeukwu!" Nnaji held the staff and bowed to the people. "Thank you," he said. "I promise to be a good king. Together, we will make our village strong and happy again." The people clapped and shouted with joy. Drums played louder and the celebration began. But while the village was celebrating, Princess Adana locked herself inside the house. She sat on her bed, holding her knees and staring at the floor. Her heart was heavy with guilt. "I can't face them," she whispered to herself. "I hurt so many people. How can I look them in the eyes? How can they ever forgive me?" Her mother, the queen, knocked on the door. "Adana, my child, please come out," she said gently. "The village is happy again. You must join them." "No, mother," Adana said, shaking her head. "I can't. They will never forget what I did. I don't deserve to be happy." The queen opened the door and sat beside her daughter. She held Princess Adana's hand and said, "My daughter, you made mistakes, but hiding will not fix them. You are alive because your father gave his life for you. Do you think he would want you to hide forever?" Adana sniffed, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I don't know how to face them, mother," she said. "Start by saying sorry," the queen said. "Then show them you have changed. They will see your heart if you are." The next morning, the village was still full of excitement from Nnaji's coronation. Children sang songs about their new king, and elders told stories of his bravery. But inside the palace, Princess Adana sat by the window, watching the villagers from afar. She knew she had to face them, but fear gripped her heart. She couldn't stop thinking about the people she had hurt and the families she had torn apart. Her mother came into the room, holding her hands gently. "Adana, my daughter, you cannot hide forever. The villagers need to see that you are no longer the same person. Show them your heart. Show them you are sorry." Adana shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Mother, what if they don't forgive me? What if they still hate me?" "They might," her mother said honestly, "but forgiveness starts with courage. Go out there and show them you have changed. I will be with you." With trembling hands, Adana tied a simple scarf over her hair and put on a plain dress. Slowly, she followed her mother toward the village square. As they walked, people stopped and stared. Some whispered, others folded their arms. Adana felt their eyes burning into her, but she kept walking. When they reached the village square, Adana stood before the crowd. She took a deep breath and spoke loudly, though her voice trembled. "My people, I have come to say I am sorry." The villagers fell silent. Even the children stopped playing. "I know I have done terrible things," Adana continued. "I let the spirit take over me, and I caused you pain. I hurt this village. I hurt families. I am deeply sorry, and I will do anything to make things right." As she knelt on the ground, tears streaming down her face, the silence broke. "You think sorry will bring back our loved ones?" A man shouted, "My son died because of you," cried another woman, her face filled with anger. A few villagers bent down to pick up a stone. She is still dangerous. What if the spirits are still inside her? Someone yelled. A stone flew past Adana and landed near her feet. Then another. Adama covered her face, trembling in fear. "Stop this, my people. I know you are hot, but hear her out." A loud voice called out. It was King Nnaji. He stepped forward, standing between Adana and the villagers. "She is no longer the same person," he said firmly. "Her father gave his life to free her from the spirits. She is not possessed anymore. She has come to ask for forgiveness. Show her mercy." "She doesn't deserve mercy," shouted a man. King Nnaji raised his hand. "Her father believed in her heart, and I believe in her too. If you trust me as your king, trust that she has changed. Hurting her will not bring your loved ones back. Let us give her a chance to make things right." The villagers murmured among themselves. Slowly, the stones were dropped, but some faces still looked unsure. Adana stood up shakingly, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for not hurting me," she said softly. "I promise I will spend my life making up for what I have done." The crowd began to disperse, though some still cast angry glances her way. King Nnaji stayed by her side, his presence comforting her. "You saved me, King Nnaji," Adana whispered. Nnaji smiled. "I am your king. Soon you will be my queen, and I believe in you. But now you must work to win their trust." Adana nodded, determination growing in her heart. She knew her journey to redemption was far from over, but she was ready to begin. The days after the villagers confronted Princess Adana were tense. Many still didn't trust her, and whispers followed her wherever she went. But Adana was determined to prove that she had changed. One early morning, Adana left the palace and went to the village square. She wore a simple cloth and carried a basket. She walked to the market where the villagers were setting up their stalls. "I want to help," Adana said softly to an old woman who sold vegetables. The woman frowned at her. "Why would a princess help me? Are you not afraid to get your hands dirty?" Adana shook her head. "I need to work. I need to show the village that I am not the person I used to be." Reluctantly, the old woman handed her some cassava roots. "Fine, peel this for me." Adana sat on the ground and began peeling the cassava. Her hands were soft and unused to the work, but she didn't stop. By the time she finished, her fingers were sore, but she smiled at the old woman. "Thank you for letting me help," Adana said. The old woman was surprised. She had expected Adana to quit, but instead, she stayed and helped her pack the vegetables for sale. As the days passed, Adana worked with many villagers. She fetched water from the stream, helped with farm work, and carried firewood. Slowly, some villagers began to see her effort, but not everyone was convinced. One afternoon, while Adana was helping repair a thatched roof, a group of young men approached her. "Why are you pretending to care now?" one of them asked angrily. "Do you think this will ease what you did?" Adana looked at him with tears in her eyes. "No," she said. "I know I cannot bring back lives I took, but I can try to make things better. Please give me a chance." The young man shook his head and walked away, but others stayed to watch her walk. Meanwhile, King Nnaji watched Adana from afar. He saw how hard she worked and how much she wanted to be forgiven. One evening, he called a village meeting. "My people," Nnaji said, standing tall in the middle of the square, "I know many of you are still angry with Princess Adana. I know it will take time to heal, but remember this: before the evil spirit possessed her, Adana was a caring person who loved the people so much. She was kind, gentle, and always helped those in need. The dark magic changed her, but that is no longer who she is." The villagers murmured, some nodding, others still looking skeptical. Nnaji continued, "I ask you to forgive her. She is trying to make things right. And remember, she is going to be my queen soon. She will be our Lolo, our mother. We must give her the chance to prove herself and help rebuild our village." The villagers looked at one another, their anger softening as they remembered the Adana before the darkness. Then, an old man stood up. "She has been helping me on my farm," he said. "She works hard and doesn't complain. Maybe she truly has changed." Another woman spoke up. "She fetched water for me yesterday. My back is too weak and she carried the heavy pot." One by one, more villagers shared stories of Adana's effort. Adana stepped forward, her voice trembling. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she said, "but I promise to keep working for you, for our village. I will not stop until I have earned your trust." The villagers began to clap, slowly at first, then louder. Adana felt a small spark of hope. It would be a long road, but she knew she had taken the first step toward redemption. From that day, the village began to change. The people worked together to rebuild what had been lost. And though there was still pain, there was also hope. With King Nnaji's support, Adana started to find her place among her people once again. Princess Adana was busy sweeping the palace yard when King Nnaji walked up to her. He watched her quietly for a moment before speaking. "Princess Adana," he called gently. She stopped and looked at him. "Yes, my king." Nnaji smiled. "You have been working so hard. You are always helping the villagers, carrying heavy loads and running around. I think it's time for you to rest a little." Adana shook her head. "I can't rest now, King Nnaji. The villagers still don't trust me. I need to keep working until they forgive me." King Nnaji stepped closer to her. "Adana, you have done so much already. Many villagers are starting to see how much you have changed. You don't have to prove yourself alone. I am here for you, and I want you to be by my side as my queen. You have pushed our marriage too long." Adana's cheek turned red and she looked away. "But I don't think it's time yet. If we don't get married now, some people might not be happy. I don't want them to think I don't care about what I did before." Nnaji gently held her hand. "Princess Adana, you are my queen already in my heart. The villagers need to see us standing together. They need to see that we are ready to lead them together. You don't have to do this alone." Adana looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Do you really think they would accept me?" "I know they will," Nnaji said with a kind smile. "You are working hard to make things right. They see that, and with time, they will forgive you fully. But I need my queen beside me now. This is the right time." Just then, Queen Ngozi walked out from the palace. She had been listening to their conversation. "The king is right, my daughter," she said. "You have done so much already. It's time to move forward. The villagers will forgive you, but they need to see you as their lolo. You can't hide forever." Adana blushed again, smiling shyly. "You both really think I am ready?" King Nnaji squeezed her hand gently. "You were always ready, Princess Adana. Trust me." She nodded slowly. "Okay, I will do it, but I will keep working hard to earn the trust of my people." The king and queen smiled proudly at her. Nnaji couldn't hide his happiness. "We will start preparing for the ceremony," Queen Ngozi said. "It will be a day to remember." Adana smiled, feeling warmth in her heart. For the first time in a long while, she felt hope. The day of King Nnaji and Princess Adana's marriage was the happiest day in Ezinato. Everyone in the village gathered to celebrate them. The palace was decorated with colorful clothes, bright flowers, and shiny beads. Drummers played loudly, dancers moved graciously, and children ran around with big smiles on their faces. Princess Adana wore a beautiful cloth made of the finest fabric, and her hair was braided with golden beads. She looked like a queen already. Nnaji stood tall in his royal attire, looking handsome and proud. When Adana walked into the palace courtyard, the villagers clapped and cheered. "Long live the king and queen," they shouted. During the ceremony, King Nnaji held Adana's hand and said, "You are my strength, my love, and my comforter. Together, we will rule with kindness and wisdom." Adana smiled and replied, "You are my protector, my guide, and my heart. I will stand by you always." The priestess blessed them and declared them husband and wife. The villagers cheered louder, and the drummers beat their drums even faster. The celebration lasted all day and night. There was plenty of food: pounded yam, soups, roasted meat, and sweet palm wine. The people danced and sang, happy that peace had returned to their village. As the years went by, King Nnaji and Queen Adana ruled Ezinato with love and fairness. They listened to their people and helped anyone in need. They made sure the village grew strong, with plenty of food and happy families. Other villages often talked about Ezinato, saying, "There is no place like Ezinato. Their king and queen are the best ruler ever." King Nnaji and Queen Adana were blessed with 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. Their children brought even more joy to the palace. The boys trained to be strong and wise like their father, while the girl learned to be kind and brave like her mother. Together, King Nnaji and Queen Adana showed the people of Ezinato that love and forgiveness could heal even the deepest wound. They became a symbol of hope, and their story was told to children for many generations. The lesson from this story is that love, forgiveness, and selflessness can heal even the deepest wounds. It teaches us that everyone deserves a chance to change and make amends for their past mistakes. True leadership comes from kindness, understanding, and working together to bring peace and prosperity to others. It also shows the importance of courage in facing one's past and the power of unity in building a better future. Thank you so much for watching. Your love and your support mean the world to me. I would love to hear your thoughts. Please share them in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting African stories. See you on the next video. Bye!